And just like that, bada bing, we are live for Triple T number 124. Who could ask for more? Yes, I missed my calling. Should have been a cheerleader. Although I got a feeling the tumbling would have looked a little weird with legs and elbows everywhere. And we are live on YouTube, so I get to have the privilege of saying, "Hi, Mom. Happy Mother's Day again," because I get to extend it because I can. And my mom is a total rock star. Whoop, whoop. Just ask me, I'll tell you many times. And I should probably introduce myself. My name is TJ Zel. I like to refer to myself as a professional problem solver. I always follow it up with, no, I don't know everything. I just have a unique way of asking lots of questions to help people find the solutions to the challenges they are looking for. I get to help people with depression, anxiety, phobias, PTSD, all sorts of stuff. Professions, 28 of them. Bing, 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 bing. And no, I wasn't a job hopper. I did a lot of traveling, Mom will verify. And I had this unique addiction to eating and sleeping indoors. So I wasn't afraid to figure out things to do, to put money in my pocket, to pay for my wonderful living habits. What else we got? I've got a website, thetswb.com, thetallskinnywhiteboy.com. And speaking of tall, skinny white boy, he's not tall, he's not skinny. He's tall, he's a bit, but he's not skinny. Savvo, good to see you. And we got Mark back on here. And all of our favorite ladies are joining us. It's going to be a good night. Savvo, have you been on since I've been introducing my ties? The tie of the week?
Yeah, I've been out since then.
All right, well.
I had a 10 weeks seminar, and it was the same day, same time. That's the only reason why I couldn't join.
That's okay. Well, it's time for me to introduce the tie of the week. I realized that I didn't have enough of my cartoon ties to make it through the rest of the year, so we're going to have a couple of standard ones. Here's a good old-fashioned power tie down to the little details. So, what else we got? Make sure that you have your questions and your topics ready for the second hour so that we can jump right into them without having our wonderful, gracious, polite chipmunk routine. And anybody got anything they'd like to share from the last time we saw each other? Any ahas, epiphanies, cool stuff? Nobody? Lenora.
There is something that I think the whole entire group says, but I know for sure that you say that one event can change and it just one day can change where you're going. So I got some very good confirmation news about a new direction that my life is going in as a speech pathologist today. So that's really exciting and I feel much better about things. And a lot more certain. And I had some really awesome insights over the last 2 weeks. Holy bananas, this new moon thing has really been very enlightening. Pun intended.
Awesome.
Totally. Very much so.
Holly. Oh, Holly's clapping.
But I'll say it's been quite the week. Probably stuff more that's going to come up maybe an hour or two, but I did get a ton of downloads. But also my number one takeaway is that sometimes the best weeks are the weeks that are crazy because they give you stuff to grow. So,
amen to that. Mark.
Yeah, I was just going to say I'm friended Savvo on Facebook, and he posted a couple of videos, and they were very interesting. I watched them through, and again, he had some interesting things to say, and I'm interested in rewatching them to see what nuggets I can dig out of them.
Very cool. Yes, I feel honored and privileged to know Savvo and have him on my tribe. So if anybody on the call is interested, you can reach out to him. If you don't know how to get hold of him, you can reach out to me. Anything else before we deep dive into the topics of the week? No? Okie dokie. Well, this week's topics: lyrics, the $1 million job, and party balance. Lyrics. This one, actually, I'm going to start with a question. Has anybody, and if you can remember the song, let me know, had a song that you just knew so well, and then all of a sudden you found out the lyrics, well, the band has been singing it wrong the entire time? Anybody got any particular one that comes to mind? What really gets me is Weird Al Yankovic is making money off of his versions. But Lenora, you had one?
There's one about the moon rising, and it sounds like Bad Moon on the right, and I think it's like Bad Man on the Rise. I can't think of it. Oh my God, I need like a running list because there are a ton.
And I called a lot of, I used to mess these up for people like Weird Al all the time, and I called them audio infections. Because that song I've actually sang, there's a bathroom on the right. And I've had people go, now that's stuck in, oh. Like, yeah, it's an audio infection, you're welcome. Any other ones that, one that really hit me, and it wasn't until I was living in California, riding my motorcycle up the freeway, and I saw Ventura Highway, and literally had to stop and take a picture by it, because I had been singing the song for so long without having any idea there was actually a Ventura Highway. The song to me was always Venture a Highway. Venture a highway in the sunshine. And I thought, yeah, why not? And then all of a sudden I went by and it clicked. It was like Ventura Highway ahead, like 3 miles. And I went, where have I heard that? Ventura Highway. What? And I recently realized that as a Amazon Prime member, they have Prime Music available to you on the internet. And you can play it on your TV, computer, whatever. And I've been playing it out in my shop, and I would say probably about 80% of their songs have the lyrics going karaoke style with the band song. And being the type of person I am, all of a sudden now I'm like, and there were a couple of lyrics that really really stuck out this week. But before we get into the 3 that I picked out, with a client that I worked with today, another one had popped up, and I'm going to use this as a little motivational for you guys. Who's familiar with Bachman Turner Overdrive, You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet? Baby, you just ain't seen nothing yet. Here's something, here's something, here's something you're never going to forget. Who knows the actual back behind the scenes story on that song? Anybody? That was one of the very first recordings that was ever given to me as an actual recording. My father found Bachman Turner Overdrive, Not Fragile, 8-track tape on the road in good shape, put it in his 8-track tape player and went, yeah, no. Because my father liked both kinds of music, country and Western. And this didn't fit into either one of them. I literally played that tape, that 8-track, so much that it would no longer play. It wasn't eaten, it wasn't destroyed. It literally had put too many miles on it, it wore it out. When I found out the backstory on this, it blew my mind. Bachman Turner Overdrive, when they would go into the studio, had a deal where they agreed that they would not warm up to set the mic levels and everything. They would not do that with any of the songs that they had intended to record for the record. They wanted every one of those songs to be fresh, direct, right from, see what they could do right away. Lead singer wasn't in the studio at that moment, so they just started jamming. You Ain't Seen Nothing Yet was just a jam out off the top of their head. Randy Bachman, who was singing it, was not the lead singer and was making fun of his brother with stuttering. So they just jam out, did this song first take, not intending anything more than just a jam session. The record producer comes in, listens to the tracks they put down, and then notices there's one track left that they haven't played for him. And he's like, well, what's this track? And they're like, oh, that's nothing. That was just a jam session that we did to warm up. He goes, well, I want to hear it. And they're like, well, okay. So the producer plays the jam session and goes, that's your single. And they're all like, what? He goes, no, that's your single. That's going on the record. That's going to be your first single. And they went, but that's not even a song. He goes, no, you're misunderstanding me. That's your single. And they said, all right, we'll have the lead singer. We'll redo it. And he goes, no, you don't understand. That recording, the way it is your single. And it was their only number one song. And Randy was freaked out because he was not the singer. And now he sounds completely different than his brother, who was the lead singer, and didn't want to be the lead singer, is now thrust into the spotlight and has to sing their number one song. And eventually, he didn't have a choice. He stepped into the role. But I bring this up to understand, to point out that sometimes we get into a project and we forget to have fun. And sometimes the fun can be more productive than the serious approach that we thought we needed to have. Any ahas, epiphanies on that little story? Every time I hear that song now, I'm like, yeah, the song that almost wasn't.
Are there a few songs in history that almost weren't?
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a YouTube guy called Professor of Rock. Now, I had heard this story before he did this on this, and I've learned quite a bit about certain songs. And the other part of tonight's subject is being careful what we allow in our heads. And sometimes it's innocent enough because we think we know what the song means, and we go with the flow and we have fun with it. But there have been a couple of songs that when I found out what they meant, why they were written, it made it hard for me to enjoy them as much as I did. So, spoiler alert, anybody like the song by Van Halen called Jump? Anybody know what that song is about, other than David Lee Roth being on stage doing all of his incredible martial arts jumps and spin kicks and all the above, and everybody having a blast on stage, and being one of those songs that sounds good at level 7 but sounds even better at level 12? There's, yeah, another great one, Rolling Stones, Can't Get No Satisfaction. But Jump is actually about people seeing a guy on the edge of a building getting ready to jump, and they're saying, go ahead, jump. Yeah, you've got it bad, things are going south, so jump. Go ahead, jump. Might as well jump. Yeah, right? What the what? And I told you those two first so that I could follow up with a couple of different ones. Now, the next one, I want especially single ladies to pay attention to. Married ladies as well, but especially single ladies. And it's the song by the Police, Everything She Does Is Magic. Every little thing she does is magic. Everything she do just turns me on. Even though my life is somewhat tragic, it's about a guy that basically, to paraphrase it, has the hots for a lady, and he's too afraid to approach her. He has set her up on a pedestal. She probably doesn't even know he exists. And as he attempts to approach her, he's like, yeah, no. Because he has already, in his mind, played out the entire scenario of how badly it's going to go. And I say that because I've the universe is sending me a ton of relationship clients. And, ladies like, oh, I don't understand. I just have these losers that come up and talk to me. And I said, well, part of it, you're going to have to change your energy, know what you're looking for. But I also want you to understand the losers approach you because they don't care. In their mind, they're the best thing on planet Earth. And why wouldn't you absolutely adore them? Well, because you're kind of a Richard Cranium. I'll let you guys think about that one for a little bit. Some of you already know, I could tell by the chuckles. Yes, there are plenty of Richard Craniums out there, and they have no problem approaching women. It's the nice guys that have been turned down a couple of times and took it to heart and forgot how to have fun with it. And so if you're out there looking for a relationship, jonesing for a relationship, get a hold of me. I forgot to say I've got a free 30-minute consultation. That's your opportunity to get a hold of me and chit-chat, and we'll see if we're a fit. And if we are, I'll let you know. If we're not, I'll let you know. But I've got a pretty strong success rate going so far. And a lot of it is making sure that you realize that everybody's got luggage. You get to decide what you feel is necessary to keep bringing forward. Bring the lessons, forget the feces. Yes, you got them at the same time, but doesn't mean you have to carry all of it. And somebody just put one in here. Yes, Lenora put in that, there are songs that you listen to and then you figure out what they mean, and it changes the feeling and the meaning. And you're like, I don't think I want to do that anymore. Song by Leona Lewis, Bleeding Love, and finding out it's a heartbreak song. Yeah. And in my 18 years of DJing, especially weddings, what was the number one inappropriate requested song for weddings? Mike.
Paradise by the Dashboard Light.
That one was all right. Yeah, we played that quite a bit. What's another guess? And I got it all the time until I explained to them what it actually meant, and they were like, "Oh, really?" Written by Dolly Parton, covered by
Whitney Houston.
Whitney Houston. I will always love you. And they're like, oh, you got to play it for the wedding. I'm like, no. What's it about? What's about I will always love you? Yeah, what's the rest of it about? I don't know. That's why you requested it. It's a breakup song. Listen to the very first entry. If I should stay, I will only be in your way. So basically, I'm going to leave, but I will always love you. And the look on their faces when they realized it was like, Yes, Lenore.
Sidebar. Dolly Parton had written that song and sung it, and I had no idea about that. And she heard Whitney Houston cover it. The first time she heard it when she was driving she pulled over on the side of the road and she was completely stunned, and she could not believe that she was the one that had written the song, and how beautiful it was that Whitney brought it to life in her way.
Yes.
Kind of fun behind the scenes fact.
Yes. And I love those behind the scenes. And again, the amount of people whose visions of this song were just sadly shattered. So with that, we're going to change gears a little bit. Who is familiar with Michael Jackson's song, Man in the Mirror? Go ahead and print out the lyrics, put it on a mirror, regardless of what you think of the man. I'm talking to the man in the mirror. I'm asking him to change his ways. And no message could have been any clearer. If you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make the change. And I'd played that song many times at parties. But it wasn't until I saw it on the screen, lyrics going by, that I just went, wow. Regardless of what I think of him, that is a killer message. Another one is James Taylor, one of my favorites, JT. Woo! Great initials. A little biased. His song, Shower the People. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Another one of those that print the lyrics out, paste it on the wall, listen to it, sing it, crank it up so the whole neighborhood can hear it. Anybody else got any?
What was that last one by JT?
Shower the people. Shower the people you love with love. Show them the way that you feel. Mark.
Well, it's in a movie with Gina Davis and Samuel L. Jackson, and he's singing the wrong lyrics to a song. He's like, I'm not talking about the linen, and I don't want to save your life. And she goes, those aren't the words. I'm not talking about, the loving, and he's like, no, those aren't the words. And
Yep.
he heard, I'm not talking about the linen, and she says, no, I'm not talking about the loving.
And I don't want to change your mind.
Yeah. We're kind of off topic a little bit, but they're called Easter eggs when they are, these little backstories.
Yep.
And when I was a little shaver, I used to love the Outer Limits. Anybody can remember that, besides TJ. But there was a episode in there that it took me many years to track down the DVDs. And a little shaver, little guy, little tiny, 8 years old. And I heard this, and
Young
what
buck.
I heard the actor say wasn't what the actor's line was, but he said, became my tagline for many years, that, the mind learns by doing, the heart learns by trying. For many years, I thought that was the line from the Outer Limits episode. And then when I got a copy of it and I listened to it, I'm like, not what the actor said. The actor said the mind earns by doing, because he had helped out these aliens. And he said, and the aliens, said, well, we didn't earn your gratitude. And he said, the mind earns by doing, the heart earns by trying. But for 25 years, I thought it was the mind learns by doing, and the heart learns by trying.
Yeah.
That kind of became something I passed along in, many sessions to people. And I was like, damn, okay, well, he didn't say it, so I'm going to own it now. So
there you go. Hey, if Weird Al Yankovic can make millions changing the lyrics of all of our favorite songs, you can take a couple of lines and change it and change the world. Anybody else got any ahas, epiphanies, things they'd like to share before we change? Holly.
This is kind of minor, but just as we were going through this, I mean, I have several songs that were coming to my mind, but a lot of them are not appropriate to share. But I just was also thinking about, it's not just what we hear too, when we're singing along with the songs, even when we don't know what the words are saying, because we haven't really listened to them, we're not just listening to the message, we're singing the message, and we're internalizing the message. And I have some songs that, I absolutely love, think they're hauntingly beautiful, but the message is just not that great. And when I sing along to them, I get done and I'm just not in this good state. And I compare that to some of my other songs, like, for instance, I don't know how many of you know Alex Boyer, Warrior Song, or, just some of those songs. That was a little bit more obscure, but I sing it and I feel like I can take on the world when I'm done. So it's just amazing the difference singing along with the song can make, even if it's just for a few minutes.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because I had a little flashback that when I was, I think, a junior in high school, junior or senior, I was in DECA, Distributive Educational Clubs of America, and we went to a competition and took a school bus because it was a school function, and we kicked butt. And on the way back, because I was such a music buff my entire life, I went up to the bus driver and I said, do you have a cassette player in the truck? He goes, or in the bus? Yeah. Would you put this on and crank it up? And he put in, and just before he did it, I said, hey, everybody, I got something special for you. Go ahead, play it. And it was Queen, We Are the Champions. And everybody on the bus, we were singing it at the top of our lungs. And that was I kind of got hooked into, yes, of the world. For all of you that are going through the Mandela effect, yes, we are the champions of the world. This new reality has it wrong, guaranteed. But that was my little intro into realizing how much I enjoyed playing music for other people to have fun. And Holly's right. I've found myself a number of times. There's a Stained has some great music that I can sing along with because it's very much in my vocal range. But the vast majority of their music is very dark and depressing and about addictions and loss. And yeah, I don't finish belting out a bunch of those songs going, yeah, I feel much better. I feel energetic. I think I should go tackle the world. And so I don't listen to them as much anymore by choice. And there are some times when I'm in a dark mood, when somebody's ruffled my feathers to keep it nicely, I can put on some Five Finger Death Punch and crank it up and belt out and get some of my feelings out that way. but I use it more strategically than I ever have because of the understanding that music is hypnotic, very hypnotic. And I prefer to use it as a tool on purpose than accidental programming. Some of the stuff coming out now, Taylor Swift just got exposed for a couple of her songs. Oh, there's a couple of lyrics in Swifty Swift's music that are, she puts them on a happy bop music, but the lyrics are dark. And the sad part is the vast majority of her fan base are what? Young girls. Very impressionable, and some of those lyrics are very demeaning, degrading, depressing. And suicides and depression and anxiety among young females is at an all-time high. All-time high. Thank you, social media. And another thing was pointed out that a vast majority of their parents went through a lot of self-image issues. And when you look at the music of their decade, which I've jammed to quite a bit, is very dark and very, we're just going to leave it at dark. But it's put to such an infectious beat that it's easy to get sucked into it. And I had a preacher at one of the churches I went to that pointed out the power of music and patterning. Anybody want to play along with the demonstration real quick? Who wants to play with real quick? Lenora?
Do it. I'll do it.
Okay, Michael. I'm going to spell a word, and I want you to tell me what it says. The word is MACDADDY.
Mac Daddy.
Mac Daddy. Second word, MACMOMMY.
Mac Money.
Mac Mommy. Yes, Mac Mommy. Third word, MACHINES.
Mac Kissy. I don't. You lost me on that one.
MACHINES.
Mac. Mac Chinsey.
Machines.
Machines. Okay. Oh, okay.
The vast majority of the people that went through Mac Daddy, Mac Mommy, Mac Hines. And he said it only took me 3 words to reprogram your thought process direction. If I give you amazing lyrics, a great beat, what can I get you to start repeating, chanting, imprinting, putting into your subconscious, putting into your brain?
Yep.
It can be used for good and evil. One of the easiest ways to get kids to learn stuff, especially like sing it. Want to learn the multiplication tables? How did we learn our ABCs?
A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Get that little beat going.
Yep.
Even people that stutter, if they can sing it, can sing without stuttering
Yeah.
because they get that, it bypasses that critical thinking part and flows. And so we have to be very careful about what we program ourselves. The Schoolhouse Rock. God, I wish they would still be cranking those out constantly. Update them, but keep them pure and positive. I'm just a Bill, and I'm sitting on Capitol Hill. Conjunction,
Way to become a
junction. Who can finish this
What's
one?
your function?
This, see? Conjunction, junction. What's your function? Making up words and hooking up words and making them sound right. Anybody with younger generation, you're looking at us going, what? Look it up. You're welcome. Okay. We got 2 more subjects. Here we go again. Any more ahas, epiphanies quick before we move on to the next? And yes, Mike, you're correct. Learned helplessness, trained helplessness, programmed helplessness.
I think Mark was going to share something before. I
Oh,
know
yeah,
I saw
Mark.
him.
I have a hypothesis. I don't have nearly enough data, but I think with some of the, again, I think there's another function that, the loud, the acid rock or the loud music that, teenage boys like to, listen to. I've had a couple of clients say that, it drowns out the, the negative self-talk. If I crank it just shy of doing, damage to my ears, I can shut down the inner voice, the negative voices.
Yep.
So I think they use it to, they crank the sound and, but I think they're trying to drown out the inner voice, which might be, again, negative self-talk. So, but I don't have enough.
100% true.
Yeah.
100% true. I've been doing it most of my life. Just ask my neighbors. Right, Mom? Yeah, no, my neighbors listen to great music, whether they want to or not. But yes, I've done that many times, many years. I got in trouble in class all the time because I would be sitting there. My legs were long enough to where if I put my legs square underneath the desk, it would lift the front of the desk off the floor about that much. Well, then I'd sit there and I'd have this song going through my head, and the desk would be bouncing, and it would bounce the whole floor if we were on the second floor. I'm also the person who can get a song stuck in my head and sing along with the song on the radio, listening and hearing both of them simultaneously. Yes, and there are days where I'm just like, stop it! Stop it! One channel at a time. That's when people tell me, well, you just need to meditate. I'm like, I'm still trying to perfect that and learn how to do it, because when I go in a quiet state, it drops my televisions and stereos down to 14 channels. And they're all on different channels. And the flippin' squirrels have a blast. Because they're like, listen to this one. No, this one. No, this one's great. No, that. And so, yes, there are times, if you heard the stereo systems that I own on this property right now, as you can see behind me, in this small office, there are actually two stereo systems, two sound systems in this office. The one that you see back there and the one that this is all run through, which is hooked up to 8 speakers. That one back there is only hooked up to 6. And the one in my shop has 4 professional full-size loudspeakers and an 18-inch powered subwoofer that I bought off of a professional concert tour. And 4 other speakers off of the stereo that I run it through. So yeah, my neighbors, like I say, listen to great music whether they want to or not. But the funny thing is, when I wear headphones or earbuds, and I've had people, those are bad for your ears. I'll say, here, listen to the volume that I have them at. And they're surprised that the volume is actually very low. Because after so many years of being an audio tech, I learned that these have amazing sound and will destroy your hearing quickly because they are capable of putting out stupid levels of decibels. But enough about that. Now we've got 14 minutes to finish with 2 topics. So I'm going to bounce into the next one quick because I know there's some people that need to hear this one. And this one really impressed me. It's from an Instagram post that I saw this week. And a guy said, if you were paid $1 million for your job, what would you do different? Would you dress differently? Would you arrive at a different time? Even if you were just the janitor, even if you were just pushing a broom, but you were making $1 million just pushing the broom, how soon would you show up for work? Would you show up right at the time you're supposed to punch in? Would you show up a little late? Would you show up early? How would you dress? Would your uniform get washed once a week, once a month? Would you have multiple uniforms so you could show up and every one would be sharply pressed? Name badge exactly the way it should be? And not to pick on the current generation, because I've seen evidence of it in a lot of generations. But I think my parents and my grandparents had a very strong outlook on that. In the town I grew up in, especially, I was so blessed, the mechanic shop that I got to work in, you didn't get to look like a motorhead grease monkey, even though it was a town of 187 people. Even though we worked on anything with a motor or wheels or tracks, whatever. Every Saturday after 2 p.m., work stopped and the entire shop got a wash down. Everything got wiped down, washed down, walls got washed down, floor got washed. tell you what, Sunday morning you could eat off that floor, and it was a mechanic shop. And I've been blessed constantly to be around those type of people where when I was doing carpentry, so a number of the people that I worked for, the workday wasn't done until the job site was put back in order. And that wasn't done on the clock. You didn't get paid to clean your tools or put your garbage away. You got paid to do the work, and then you did it. And when I heard this, and I wish I could remember who it was, I recognized him as being a successful entrepreneur, actor and stuff, and he said he learned very early on to look at the job of how would you do it if you were paid $1 million. And because he adopted that mindset, he moved up constantly at any place that he was employed. Because with that mindset, it was very easy to go above and beyond. Because why wouldn't you if you were making $1 million? Well, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Which came first, the attitude or the money? And you could say it was the attitude, but a lot of people do it the wrong way. I'll start having this attitude when I'm making the money. And they never get the attitude or the outlook to make them become something worth being paid $1 million. And I know we had talked about, I think it was the CEO of what, Coca-Cola? What, Coca-Cola, I think it was, that we used for the example. Could somebody do some quick research as to what the annual salary is and break that down into hourly pay? Not how many hours in the year, but hours in the work year, and what he makes an hour. And so that's why I put it down as $1 million job. And it even struck me for this. If I was making $1 million doing Triple T, what would I do differently? And it makes me want to make sure that the content that I deliver is worth your guys' time. And something that can go out and hopefully change somebody else, change their mindset to be able to, if making $1 million, there it is. He makes $11,973 an hour. I remember a time in my life where that would have been a happy yearly income. There are some people that the idea of making that a month blows their mind. Now, is he like Superman? Is he part of the X-Men? Does he have the ability to levitate? Can he walk through? No. Then why is he making almost $12,000 an hour? Probably has a mindset, started out at some point, adopted the mindset of $1 million job and kept collecting the skill sets necessary and the mindset necessary to get to the point where he's making $12,000 an hour. Now, your values and criteria may go, but I don't want to be the CEO of Coca-Cola. That's fine. But can you do better than you're doing today? Can you do better than you did yesterday? Who can you become? And I've gotten a lot of pushback from students, clients. Well, money isn't everything. No, you're right, it's not. But it is kind of like oxygen in a way. When you get to the point where you have absolutely none, it gets a little hard to do things. And you don't have to make it all about you. Money just makes you more of who you are. If you're a narcissistic a-hole, we all know some people who have plenty of money who are very narcissistic a-holes. And if you quadrupled their income, you would probably quadruple their ability to be a narcissistic a-hole. But if you're a kind, compassionate, empathetic, giving person who likes to help people, how many people can you help with an additional $1 million a year? You don't have to change your lifestyle if you don't want. You can still live exactly where you are. You can still drive the exact same vehicle. I can see his face. One of the richest guys on the planet. What's his name?
Buffett.
Yes, Warren Buffett. Still driving the same little, I think he's got what, a Toyota or something like that he's been driving forever, lives in the same house he's lived in for 30, 40, 50 years. You get to decide what you want to do when you get there. But I know a lot of people that are in my tribe or that would qualify for my tribe would also realize that they have that money, and I can see them being in the checkout line at the grocery store looking at the single parent trying to figure out what they were going to put back because they couldn't afford, they'd already exceeded the money that they had available, and just be able to go, here's 200 extra for that single mom over there, and she gets the change and she doesn't have to know where it came from. Or finding out that somebody at work's car went to pot and they've been doing everything they can because they're nice people, and a car just happens to show up. Doesn't have to be a brand new whatever, but it's a reliable car. Why? Because the 10, 15 grand, if you're really doing nice, isn't that much of a hit when you're making $1 million. But to them, it could be life-changing. And that pretty much burned up the 2 hours. We don't have time for the third topic. That's happened before. But anybody got any ahas, epiphanies, comments you'd like to share on $1 million job? Bueller, Bueller. Any comments, epiphanies on the first hour? And if not, who's got questions and topics for hour number 2? There we go. Hour number 2, silence introduction. For those of you watching for the first time or watching the recording, know your volume has not fallen off. I'm making sure of that so you understand where. So, Mike, you got a question or a topic for hour number 2?
Well, I have a moment that I'd like to share with you guys that I really truly appreciate the gift of your time last week. Um, it's uh, there was some amazing material, and then afterwards there was quick great conversation afterwards that uh was really meaningful. Um, for me, I found that this week, just to review, it was the struggle to try to get things started and trying to get uh, projects going and trying to get inertia moving and all that other stuff. And so, um, the tips that you guys gave me has really helped. I find that just doing small things just for myself, um, cleaning up an area that has been a little messy and just kind of under my skin has relieved that pressure to help move into other areas, and started that kind of a kinesthetic inertia to build on to better things. So thank you for all that. I appreciate that.
Awesome! Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Keep up the good work. Now, what would you do if you were getting paid $1 million to do it?
Well, my present job or my future job, which
All the
would be
above.
um
What if you were getting paid $1 million to clean your house?
that really does fuel the inertia, doesn't it? Um, yeah, it would. It that is definitely a perspective change, um, and it's not the label of $1 million. It is the what it can do for you. So there was the discussion. If you were given $10,000, what would you do with it? Okay. And then you let them blah blah blah. And then the next question is, what would 10,000 do for you? And that is just one of those mind puzzles that changes your perspective and how just a few word order changes can really change your perspective.
Yeah.
And I'm searching for more of those little tweaks to be able to um, help fuel my inertia and to help the transition from thinking of a task to just sliding into the motion of doing it instead of the critic uh, or the wall that comes up saying it's going to be so much energy, it's going to be so much, you know, kinesthetic movement, or it's going to be just that meh. Being able to get rid of the meh,
Yeah.
uh, which meh means energy sucker. And how can I word that important concept in a way that everyone could truly feel that?
Well, that's a great question right there. Anybody got an answer for Mike?
again, the question is like the concept of trying to get motion started to do a new project, and the wall of that kinesthetic block of just I wanna, or this is the reason why I don't wanna, and all that stuff. How can that be conveyed of how much energy that saps out of a person, on your soul?
On your soul. First off, have you watched the replay of last week's Triple T?
Parts of it.
Rewatch the second hours a number of times. Secondly, remember that nothing means anything until you give it a label. If the label that you give it isn't strong enough or doesn't feel right, you can always give it a new label. And you can interview your three brains, your head, your heart, your gut, to see if they've got any other ideas or better labels to give it to help empower you to get through it. And then ask yourself, how much money would it take for me to change my mind about doing it? Holly.
Finish saying what you're saying. I'm just getting in the queue. Well, okay. So a couple things that came up when you were saying that. First of all, I don't know if you noticed where you were gesturing at the wall.
Too busy talking.
Often, if you could just find where it is and physically reach out and move it to where it would be better, that alone could make a huge difference. Sometimes we get so caught up in, I got to reframe it, I got to get the verbal side, I got to get the thought through. And sometimes just physically moving it, putting it behind you, make all the difference in the world. A couple other things that came to my mind. So just talking about walls. So Lillian Pearl Bridges, those of you who knew her, she said something that has stuck with me forever, and it's this idea of styrofoam walls. And whenever we're embarking on something important in our lives, something on our golden path, there's almost always a styrofoam wall that looks like a brick wall in our path. And a lot of us, not necessarily all of us, but a lot of us will sit back and look at it because it looks very convincing. It looks just like a brick wall. And if we spend our whole time thinking, oh, there's this brick wall on my path, what am I going to do? How am I going to get around it? It's so solid, I don't know what to do. We exert all this energy worrying about what we're going to do, but if we walked right up to it and just touched it and pushed through it, we discover it was made of styrofoam and it will melt away immediately.
Sure.
And so it is absolutely true that a lot of us waste a lot of energy worrying about styrofoam walls that once we actually get to them, they were nothing anyway. The energy was in the worrying about it, not in the wall itself. So
Exactly.
like I said, that's always going through my head. I'll think there'll probably be more stuff, but those are the first couple thoughts.
The other thing, you're familiar with VACOG, right? Visual, auditory, kinesthetic, olfactory, gustatory. Start figuring out how to describe the wall in different ways, and then understand what is your visual perspective on it. Can you rise above it and look down at it? Can you go off to the side and look at it? Can you lean down? Because what I've found a lot of times is a lot of people would be like, this wall is so huge, I can't see past it. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, it's that big?
Sure.
Well, when it's right here, it looks flippin' huge. Oh my God, look at that. I can't, everywhere I look, there's a wall. Oh.
So it really is a change of perspective and a different ways of looking at it. And for so long of my life, it has been that view has been so halting. And what I'm just conveying to others of when you are experiencing that, um, that being able to cross through that and to make a pathway that doesn't involve having to fight that wall is so in so amazing. So that's just my present for you guys to that I've been able to experience that. And so that's the the package that I'm trying to present.
Very cool. Holly.
Just a couple of responses to that. I love that so much. First of all, I think it's part of the reason why you're able to convey that so beautifully is because you did the work yourself. And it comes off as, very genuine, very thoughtful, and just this thought of, you went through it so that we could learn from your experience. And then also just kind of what you said about going around it too, that so, sometimes it's the styrofoam wall, but sometimes you're the creek going down the side of the mountain and you hit a rock. Well, what does a creek do when it hits a rock? It just goes around it. So sometimes that's the best response too. And thank you for sharing that. That was amazing.
Sure. And then one of the other things that I found is that when I find that I'm kind of feeling that wall or that resistance, then I find that my world has kind of come around me and I'm feeling kind of like in a cocoon. So, or let me give another example. My world has always spun. I've got autism, so it's always been kind of a fight to try to stop and stabilize that. But if I let that go unimpeded, then I fall down into the shape of the funnel and get stuck. So then I can't move, and it's no matter what I can't get out. And it's almost like a kinesthetic pressure trap, and to take a breath and to stretch and expand and to move and just do that is has really helped me. And so I present that as a topic for your guys' table and your practices or your experiences that has helped me in this last week. And so thank you for that too.
You want to try something different?
Sure.
You say that you always feel like your life is spinning, like you're spinning, if I got it right?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen one of those whirlybird tops that you yank and pull and they spin and then off they go? What do you think it would be like if you could, instead of cocooning down tight, if you could put your arms out like rotors and take that spinning action and go?
That would be an amazing experience, and I think that would be very freeing. And it's the feeling of having your space taken away from you.
Taken away from you.
Right. So being able to recover that and to expand your space so you have the ability to pivot and move. My perspective in this last week is that because of my mind patter and um all that stuff, it feels like I'm almost at red line, not quite, but almost
Yeah.
tacking. And then I'm trying to fit all of life's problems and thoughts and all that other stuff in the few RPM that's left before the red line.
So that's where I'm wondering if instead of slowing down, what if you grab the momentum, the energy's already there, speed it up to your advantage and put your arms out and propel. It's just a a flip twist on sometimes it can be a little challenging to try and stop the inertia. And so you can embrace the inertia and use it to your advantage.
Kind of like a redirect with martial
Yep.
arts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you've got a wall ahead of you, if you know you're going to hit it, you can try and hit the brakes, but if you know that there's not enough room to stop, mash that accelerator and might as well do Dukes of Hazzard and jump the wall.
With the spinning also, though, people have actually jumped out of airplanes. Their chutes have failed to open. They've got entwined in the string and the material and started to roll. And it happened at ASU in Phoenix. A guy from the parachute team actually was spinning perpendicular, hit a hill and rolled down the hill and got up.
Wow.
Yep. Use the momentum, use what you've got in front of you, and know that, like we've said, I don't know how many thousands of times on this platform, always at least 3 solutions to every event, situation, or problem that may occur. And I've had people where they'll stop at one. They go, well, I said, then give me something that sounds absolutely absurd, like totally crazy, like. And so they'll give me a solution that sounds just totally crazy, and I go, good. Now you got 2. What's the third one? And as soon as their mind goes, that was okay. You don't have to be serial to come up with. You can be Fruit Loops and still have fun, come up with solutions. Right, Savvo? Savvo's got his hand up.
Yes. Mike, are you open for some questions? Can I ask you a couple questions?
Yeah. It took a lot of time last time, so I want to just keep this short for other people. But yes, yeah.
That's like, so I'm curious, you said there's resistance and some of my
Your mic cut out, Savvo.
Yeah, it's difficult to understand you.
hear me? 1 2 1 2 test.
There we go.
Okay, great. So, Mike, you talked about resistance, and I'm curious, what is the highest positive intention of that resistance? Why did the resistance come in your life in the first place?
Why does the resistance come into my life in the first place?
Right. So is it fair to say, Mike, there's like a part of you that's resisting?
Yeah.
Got it. Thank you. I hear you. And what would you say? Why did that come in your life? And what was the highest positive intention of that part of you that was resisting?
Grew up in a abusive family, and it's more of a shelter in place, so it's more of a self-preservation thing. So conservation of energy, and it's that running at red line and just being strung out, that I just need to stop and reset and kind of chunk up, walk away, you know. So I think the positive on this is when I feel that resistance, that would be an indicator that I need to um, take time and try to refresh that.
So to stop, chunk it up, you see the positive in it, and now you're saying that would be an indicator. So it's almost like as soon as this happens, this can happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's an indicator that it's time to pivot.
Time to pivot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, to redirect the energy, so speaking.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, so that part of you that's resisting, maybe if you call it like resisting Mike, what kind of new role, function, or purpose would you give to that part of yourself? What would you like that part of you to do instead?
Um, to step back, re reorganize, and to move forward with refreshed resources.
Thank you. Thank you, resisting Mike. I appreciate that. I also have resisting Savvo, and sometimes it's really helpful.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. So with that, I thank you guys for spending all this time. I've spent 20 minutes and I thank you. And I would like to pass the feather.
And we accept your your thanks, but I'm gonna change one label for you.
Okay.
You didn't spend the time, you invested it. And you invested it on this platform, and somebody out there is going to need to hear exactly what you said so that they can get the same change. That's why this platform is open to any and all questions and topics, because I'm sure there's a number of people on this call. Has anybody on this call ever had a topic come up and you were like, that is just what I needed to hear today. How did you know? It's like magic.
I do that with books all the time, where you take a book and you flip it and you open a page and that it tells you what you needed to know.
Yes. And I've actually, that's another great, I'm so glad you brought that up. I've told that to a couple of people. Ask your higher self if you're in a library or a bookstore, you've got something on your mind that you're looking for an answer for. Walk around, pull out a book, flip it open, and just start reading. You'll be amazed at what will come out. In fact, if nobody's got another question or a topic, oh, go ahead, Mark.
I was going to do something else with Mike. Just ask him to engage in an exercise where, Mike, if you just close your eyes and you imagine this impediment, this wall, and you walked right up to it, okay, how big is it? How much of a how long is it? How high? Just close your eyes and imagine how big it is. It's probably pretty big in your imagination, and it's probably pretty tall. Then you have to ask yourself, well, how thick is it? If you just close your eyes and imagine how thick it is, okay? Oh, it's really thick. Okay, if I could take the power of imagination and just transport you to the other side of that wall, and you get your back to that wall, now you can perceive how how thick it is. Oh, it's really thick, it's really solid. And I just want you to take 2 steps away from the wall and open your eyes. Oh my God, it's behind you. You can use the power of imagination to transport you past the wall, so it's behind you.
So that was a very interesting concept, because instead of having to push and having that resistance, it gives
Mhm.
me the backing of being able to push against the wall, to push forward, and to gain leverage against my future project.
There you go.
So yeah, thank you.
That's
That was very
beneficial.
good. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Always at least 3 solutions to every event, situation, or problem that may occur. And one thing that just, one of the squirrels, those of you who don't know me well enough know, just so you know, my squirrels have squirrels who have squirrels. One of them just brought up that don't be afraid to ask for help. Coaches need coaches, therapists need therapists, doctors need doctors. And when it comes to this kind of stuff, it can be very challenging to be the driver and the passenger of the vehicle at the exact same time. And today, I was going to share real quick, out of the blue, except for those of us that know how this stuff works, I just randomly was going through the contacts on my phone. I had called somebody that I wanted to talk to, got their voicemail, but because I had to open it up in contacts, I was looking at contacts and just pressed on the side, and it brought me to the letter T. And I was just scrolling through the contacts, looking at the names of people in there and remembering some people I haven't talked to in quite a while. And all of a sudden I saw this name and I just pressed call. And they answered right away with, "Oh my gosh, I've been wanting to call you for a week. I can't believe this, da 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 da." And we talked for an hour. Now, those of us that know how the universe works, was it just one of those freaky things? Or did the universe just finally go, they're never going to call, so we're just going to have to make it happen? Don't make the universe do it for you. Go ahead, make the call. And sometimes in this world of everybody is so busy, take a few minutes and just open up your contact list on your phone and scroll through and call somebody randomly. And this isn't pull out your phone and just start tapping numbers and see who you end up and you're talking to somebody in Hong Kong. No. Find somebody on your contact list that you haven't talked to in a while and let them know. I was just scrolling through my contact list, saw your name. Just want to say hi, see how you're doing.
And I think that I grew up in a tribeless environment, you might say.
Mm-hmm.
The people who were around me couldn't be trusted. I was
Yeah.
the friend in 2 and the scapegoat in 3. So I have in my profession, I have met some wonderful people, and just reaching out and touching base with individuals that I've had a resonation, or what's a vibration, whatever.
Yep.
That I think is an amazing thing for me and anyone else who feels isolated because of self-doubt, self criticism, when you come across those people that are just healthy, don't preload the experience with negative, well, I don't know what to say, You know, it's that for me, it has been the self-doubt and the unknown and the preloading it with the whole insecurity.
Okay.
Yeah. So
So now that you're a new person, if you were to randomly call somebody on your contact list that you know, and if they're on your contact list on your phone, chances are you know them enough. And when you're scrolling through, don't pick somebody that you met on the street corner and talked for 5 minutes and they gave you their phone number. You can start with some people that you know that you just haven't talked to for a while. And if you were to just hit call out of curiosity, what would be the worst case scenario?
yeah, that
No,
it
I'm
just goes to
asking you,
voicemail.
what would
It
be the
just goes
worst
to
case scenario?
voicemail. It would just go to voicemail and um I yeah, I did that to a guy who was in front of me at McDonald's, and I called him and he looked at the phone and then slowly put it on the seat beside him on the car.
Cool.
And that was wrenching, but also enlightening that he was probably not a right fit. So
Let me ask you a question. What was going on in his day just before you called? What was on his mind just before you called?
and that is a presupposition.
Yes,
Um,
presupposition. And that was the worst case scenario?
yeah.
Yeah. And you survived. Holy
Okay.
cow. You placed a call. Worst case scenario, you got to watch the guy go, I'm having a shit day. I don't want to share it with this guy right now. You could have been his mother and he could have gone, don't want to talk to mom. You could have been Publishers Clearinghouse sweepstakes calling to say he won $1 million and he just went, you know, not today.
Yeah. And that is the second level of thought, that when you are in the mess, you might say, that I don't have access to. And I think when you're in a traumatic response, that when you're in that cycle, the being able to step over the goose line. Here in North Dakota, we have geese that if you have lake property, they'll walk up on your uh, area and make messes. So all you have to do is just put a string 4 inches high, and it keeps the geese out. And and I call that the goose trip, where when I'm in that traumatic response, the goose trip, the 4 inch line, is not something I can step over because I don't have the awareness to be able to look out and overcome. So again, thank you for all this time. I want someone else to have time here. I really do. So thank you for everything.
Well, you're helping us big time because I would have never brought up that. I thought of today's situation because of what you brought up.
Oh, thanks.
So now I'll have to get your number in my deal and see what happens when I randomly call you and you go, what?
I can help you with that.
So we got 26 minis left. Who's got another question topic to share? Or we could have a lot of fun. I could put this random call on speakerphone and we could interview him. Savvo.
So I switched to my laptop. I hope it's better now. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Excellent. So some of the things that I've been changing in my practice for the last couple of years, I would like to share, especially last year, from hypnotherapy approach, NLP approach to more holistic parts integration approach. And is that okay if I share that?
Yes, please.
Okay, great. It's because I think it could be very helpful to group that where most people have a lot of experience with hypnotherapy. So in hypnotherapy, I when I now teach seminars, I split the methods into building and integrating. So hypnotherapy is more of a building method to where we create something out of nothing. And then integrating is more of parts work, shadow work, things like that. And so it's essential to do both because there is times for information and there is time for integration. And so what I find very important for me in my own work, and so this later with my clients, is also finding these 4 areas in my life that one of those I didn't even know existed, which is mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual. And really looking at those and looking at like integrating the foundation of my personality. And this is exactly what a lot of modern psychology and hypnotherapy is. I remember I was doing damage to my students and my clients. So from 2017, 2018, I was teaching almost everything that I learned from RTT, Rapid Transformational Therapy by Marissa Peer, and similar methods to where people would do things like repeat affirmations and just do it, just push through. But the truth is, every time we push through, what I learned is there is a part of us that gets neglected, and every time something is neglected, it just grows and it just expands. More we run away from the monster, more it chases us, and it just becomes bigger, and it gets to the point where it's just unbearable. And so how this also works is that so we have parts of ourselves that, let's say, don't feel good enough, and we have tendency to hide, suppress, and deny them, to put them under the rug, to put them in the shadow, and that's where they grow more, almost like a band-aid on the wound. It gets infected and it grows. And so what I learned is, of course, still using hypnotherapy language and all these great tools almost all the time. And when it comes to parts integration, just learning to find out more about that part and let that part of the person come up. And so let's say they feel insecure and someone feels insecure. So let's say they can have judgment around that insecurity very often. And as a group, we have tendency to say, oh, you feel insecure. Don't feel insecure. It's almost like a mom goes, the child cries and mom goes, don't cry. Crying is bad. And then you keep tears for like 30 years. Then you wake up one day, it just hits you. So that's how people create these separate entities in their brain by like, oh, it happens, anxiety happens, because they hate anxiety so much. So it's not just anxiety anymore. It's so scary. It's so scary that they built guilt around anxiety. So it's so scary that you shouldn't even think about that. So that's another level of the way in which we amplify anxiety, and we push it away so that when it happens, we become a different persona that doesn't have any ability of communication because we are just so fragmented because of that judgment. And the very same thing, if we say, so I'm going to finish off with this one. When we say, I don't feel good about myself and I'm not good enough. And then a lot of people look at you and go, you are good enough. And I don't do that anymore because I see how that's fragmenting people further on a deeper level. So I get curious. I go, is it fair enough to say a part of you doesn't feel good enough? Because I have parts of me that don't feel good enough. And guess what? They are not good enough. If I think about how, can I repair an airplane? It's like, no, it's better for me to understand that I'm not good enough, to keep other people safe. So So there are parts of me and there are certain aspects of my life where I'm not. And so as soon as I surrender, and so that's the key word for me, it was in my healing work. As soon as I surrender to the fact that, you know what, this is not good enough yet. It might be, okay, so far up until now, it's been that way, and I surrender to that, then that part of me starts to feel accepted and loved, and it can become integrated naturally. But it's much more holistic approach than trying to push that part and force that part, because more I push it, more it just gives me the resistance. And that's all I have to say about that.
That's why I appreciate you being able to invest any time you can with us, brother. Back at you. Any questions, ahas, epiphanies off of that amazing download? Lenora.
I love what you share, Savvo. It's always so insightful. And so I know you mentioned a lot from RTT, and affirmations was something that just did not work for me, because whenever I would say something, I would hear in the background, no, you're not. And even with a lot of the work that I think a majority of us have learned from with Dr. David Snyder, on the surface, it looks almost like, don't feel it, move past it, and like point to where you feel it and you can change it, and almost like kind of like not quite like a miracle drug, but like boom, you can skip, hop, jump over this. And when I started to TJ was the one that I was able to work with one-on-one, and going through the work that he had helped me with was really about feeling it and getting it through and processing it. And when I really understood that, it changed my entire world. And even this week I was thinking about, yes, thank you, TJ. This week I was thinking about fear. How can I lean into fear and not necessarily get excited by it, but know that there's gold there? And there's actually a book that I have, and it's called The Gift of Fear. And as I've finally started to phase out of my Disney mindset, where it's like, oh, you'll be happy and then you'll never have another problem again. Like, moving past that, we're very excited about this. And I'm noticing that when things come up, it's okay. This is a good thing that it can come up, and go after it when you can. So for example, something came up as TJ was finishing hour 1 and I needed to go off camera because who knows what was coming up. And feeling into that and being able to process it, as uncomfortable as it is, it's really about being able to feel it. And I used to really struggle with, this was an aha and epiphany this week, about worthiness and deserving. And what I noticed is that we are all worthy. We are all deserving. We are all stuck in trances that make us think that we're not worthy and deserving. And a really powerful question is, what might it feel like if you were? Or what might it feel like if you were good enough for somebody to answer the phone? What might it feel like if you were good enough or to ask that person out on the date? What might it feel like for you to receive love? And in that, noticing the intense emotion, it was just overwhelming gratitude, overwhelming, like hysterical crying of feeling into that and noticing that even though it feels uncomfortable because you're not sure, like you're like, am I breathing? Am I crying? Like, oh my God, what is this? It really is this very strong emotion that comes up, and then processing it over the next hours and days, however it continues to process and move through you. But it really is, I extraordinarily agree with you about feeling and being able to go into that shadow and being able to navigate through that, with whether it's by yourself or if you're holding space for somebody or if somebody's holding space for you, but allowing yourself to be fully deep and present in all that emotion.
So that to heal, we need to feel, because when we feel, we amplify the neurology back then, and therefore we can install new neurocortical pathways. Without feeling it, we are just brushing it under the rug. And then your question was, how do I get the gold? Well, the gold is hidden in the cave that you fear to enter the most.
I love that. I love when you bridge the science too. I love that.
No, I think that's really helpful for me. It was helpful in my life. I gained a tremendous amount of peace and joy on a daily basis because there is nothing inside that I'm fighting. And when I am fighting, when I'm triggered by outside, I have judgments for others. That means, oh, there is something here. And it's a great opportunity. And that brings, for me personally, and people I work with, a lot of peace. And that's the indication. That's a good indication that things are working.
Mark.
Savvo, my brother, with your permission, I'd like to ask you a question about, getting into the Wayback Machine. And when you, would that be okay?
Yes.
Okay. When you stepped into the ring for that championship bout, okay, again, what is it that you were feeling? Were you feeling, the fear of failure? What powered you over the top? Was it the anger? Was it the fear? The anxiety. You don't want to embarrass yourself or your family, your trainer. What is it? What was the strongest feeling you were feeling when you stepped into that championship ring? And his eyes are going in the right direction because he's remembering.
Yeah, the feeling was fear. The strongest feeling was fear. And then that was back 12 years ago, my last professional fight. It was fear, and it really, if I trace it back, it comes from insecurity. When I was a child, I was bullied in school, and I was trying to find ways to cope, trying to find ways to become stronger. And that's how I got into martial arts. So it was always proving others and parts of myself that I am good enough, strong enough, things like that. It was running away from.
You were stronger than the fear. Thank you.
Awesome stuff. We got 13 minis left. Anybody else got a question or topic they want to toss in here? Lenora.
My question for the group, I came up with this over the weekend and I was so excited to ask you all. What do you notice? Okay, so apparently this is a two-part question. Do you notice if you have become as your emotional intelligence has expanded, do you notice if you don't like to go to certain places, that you quite literally feel uncomfortable because they can feel really energetically overwhelming and you're just like, no. And if you do experience that, or also, how are you protecting yourself before you go in? What are some things that you do before you go in? Mine has shifted drastically over the last 4 years, and I can still go to places, but there are times where it just takes so much to process and feel better afterwards. So, thoughts, feelings, emotions, reactions.
Who's got an answer for Lenora? Holly.
Got some things that are coming up. First of all, I will say I definitely have found that there are places I'm less likely to go. And part of what goes through my mind is you are the average of the people you spend the most time with. And also, I only have a certain amount of time in my life, in my day. And so, I mean, obviously, there are times when, especially if it's like family or something, like you might need to touch base with certain areas of your life. But the number one way I protect myself, because you mentioned about the protecting, is I prioritize spending time in places where I feel better, I feel growth, I feel supported, I feel like I'm encouraged to be the best version of myself. And by default, that means spending less time in places where I don't get that experience. And I think it's okay, because I think the biggest problem is sometimes we feel guilty doing that. But, if we spend time with people who tear us down instead of spending time with people who build us up, that's not productive, and it enables them in their bad behavior. And also, if we spend time around people who are tearing us down, you could have spent that time with somebody who actually would have learned from you, and you are robbing them of something they actually would have gotten value of spending time with you instead of just trying to, feed on you. And I mean, it's not always that black and white. Sometimes people will build you up in one moment and tear you down the next, or, like whatever. So, and this is the thing is like, I feel like having a boundary with somebody is showing them love. That doesn't mean I don't love them. It just means, hey, this is not healthy for you. This is not healthy for me. And we're going to go what's best for each of us. So I think the biggest part is just getting over that guilt of having a boundary and recognizing it's good for me and it's good for them.
Good stuff. Anybody got anything to add to that?
Yeah, I can add some stuff to that. There's a bunch of strategies for situations such as that. You can energetically and psychically build a bubble around you. You can deliberately and intentionally turn off your attention to other people and other things and just really just pull in. And I don't know if you'd say not pay attention, but just turn it off, just shut it off, just close the door. It's like nobody gets in. Another thing you can do is get in. I'm sorry about that noise. It's my dog chewing on a toy. You can get in and get out of situations as quickly as possible. And there's all sorts of grounding and cleansing techniques you can use before and after. Earthing, walking on, the grass or the dirt. You can try saging if that works for you. Hug a tree. So there's a lot of stuff you can do afterwards to clear. And there's a lot of stuff you can do beforehand to prepare. But I think for me, the things that work best is get in and get out as fast as possible. And then just pull the curtains. Just don't let the energy in. And just don't entertain it. Just don't allow it.
Along with that, you can also, when you feel the vibe, you can embrace and take what you can out of it, and then release the rest. Because it's all energy, and you just take the good out of it and let it go.
Mark, lots of great stuff here.
I think I'm quoting Dr. David when I say, when you're about to go into a situation and you feel like your energy isn't a match for the environment, that you just, amp up your vibe. You want to enter a group or a situation at the same level or slightly above of the situation or the group you're about to join. And sometimes matching your energy to the, to the environment or the situation, he said would, that way you're coming in at their level, and you're not the outsider. You're almost like was just said. You're matching their vibe, you're matching their energy, and you come in at their level or even a little above, and they'll appreciate the you joining or joining the group or walking into the situation, because you're I think that was from Dr. David.
Cool.
And TJ, you said, I think last week or the week before, you were talking about a candle. When a candle lights another candle, it's it doesn't lose its light. So
Holly.
I can get myself to come off mute here. Another trick I use sometimes when you're in one of those situations where it's like I have to be here. Maybe it's a work situation, a family situation, whatever. I like to reframe it when I'm on my game and stuff. What Linda was saying, prep yourself, get your state control, ground, all that. When I'm in the right state, I like to kind of turn it into a game and say, what can I learn from this situation? Both about what have I learned? How have I grown? And who do I not want to be? What behaviors am I seeing that are bothering me? Why are they bothering me? And it's part of it because I'm seeing a mirror of something I want to change in myself. And by reframing it as a game of learning who I want to be, I can still get growth from it, even if it's a different kind of growth than I might get when I'm around people. Some people I get around and I want to learn from them who I want to be. And some people, when I get around them, I learn who I don't want to be. But it's still useful.
Ollie, that actually brings up, I worked with an astrologer for a while, and he basically explained, when you're going into a situation where you're going to go into an argument with this person and it's a recap, same thing. Picture you have a joystick and you're on a raft, and with this joystick you can actually stop the raft in motion, and then you have a choice to react or respond accordingly. So kind of like the game. I think that's awesome.
Yep. Now I'm going to jump in here quick because my squirrels are losing their mind. Also want you to think about the difference between IQ and EQ. Anybody know the difference between the two?
Yeah, intelligent quotient and emotional quotient.
And the better you raise your EQ, you can use your IQ to adjust what you need out of a situation. We've all seen the people who have a very low EQ and they lose their mind over the littlest stuff. Oh my goodness gracious, they looked at me this way and this means that my whole year is ruined and all the above. Strengthen your EQ through whatever practices, whatever mantras, whatever it takes to build it up. And the other thing is when you're stepping into a hostile environment, you can mentally prepare yourself for anticipating hits. And I know Savvo can probably validate this better than anybody. Savvo, what's the difference between getting hit inside of the octagon versus getting hit by surprise out in public? I know you've taken some pretty brutal hits inside the octagon.
Yeah. First, the thing that comes to my mind before that is every time I get hit, whether I just spar with my friends, my brother, it's indication for me that I'm not in the flow. And so whether I'm inside the octagon or the street, there's this general rule. If they hit me and I get angry, which can happen on the street more often, obviously, because even though I haven't had fight on the street for decades almost, so the anger can come up more, certainly because rules are not established, and there's different boundaries, and there's more fear, and so either way, if I can really go in and start to understand that when they hit me, they are becoming my teacher, I can they are letting me know you're not in the flow. Or let's say hitting me on the street, they're letting me know, hey, something is off, bro. Like something is going on inside of you to where you're not paying attention. And if I see it that way, whether it's on the street or in the octagon, I can deal with that much better. And so I think that might be beneficial. Staying in the flow, staying in the present. That's always wherever I am. It's a principle. So I went off the tangent on this one. I'm sorry, but I hope it's beneficial.
It's kind of like the karate. Can I interject, TJ, real quick?
Yes, please.
It's like the karate instructor walking with his best buddy. They're walking down the street and they see a guy in a fight across the street, and he says, "Hey, man, look at that guy kicking all those kids' butts, man. He's just doing really good. Isn't he one of your students? Man, he must be your best student." And the karate instructor says, "No, man, that's my second best student. My best student chose a different way home." And to go in with what you're saying is, if you're anticipating a punch or you know a situation's coming, you can prepare for it, you can avoid it, you can adjust to it, other than being on the street and getting hit by surprise and not knowing it's coming, getting blindsided. So anyway.
Yep. And another way of looking at it that I teach a lot of my clients and students is getting hit in the head with a 2x4 really sucks. It hurts. But there are two ways to get hit. One, you're following a friend who's carrying a 2x4 over their shoulder and they turn unexpectedly and hit you. The second one is a person comes straight at you with a 2x4 and they hit you. The pain is different because one is intentional, one was accidental. Both of them hurt. I've been smacked in construction. Let me tell you, 2x4 to the head, freaking hurts. But when it's accidental, or even when I was in martial arts as well, the hits you can take when you're anticipating or while in play are much more than you can take when they're unexpected or malicious. And so the way I reframe for a lot of people is, yes, your friend or your family member did this to you and it hurt big time. What if it had been done by a drunk, homeless meth head? How much of an impact would it have? And the vast majority of the time, like, I wouldn't care. It was your interpretation and the label you put on the activity and what happened that hit the hardest. Like my father said to me a couple of days ago that amnesia is the best way to live life. You just forget about it. Yeah, it's another way of looking at it as well.
I accidentally hit return on that. That's half the thought. The bridge to that is, if you have amnesia of how people treated you in the past, you are subject to falling into the same pattern.
Possibly.
And to have the remembrance and the ability to see that coming gives you the opportunity to remember what you have practiced to do in the future.
Yes. It also helps you remember what you've survived and that you are strong enough that if it ever happens again, you've already survived it once.
And survive, people don't take that lightly.
Yes, exactly.
I am honestly a survivor of my life.
Yeah.
So,
And the cool part is, all the lessons that you collected along the way means that you are more prepared than you ever have been, ever. because everything that you survived came with the feces, but it also came with the lessons and made you a different person than you were just before it happened the first time. And so many people react as though they're that same person they were just before it happened the first time. Well, the first time it happened, it really hurt. But you're not that person anymore. You're the person on the other side of the event who is much stronger and who is smarter. I now know, after following enough people with 2x4s over their shoulders, that I stay back a bit so that when it swings, it goes, whew, and I go, missed me. There are those lessons that you get just like that. And hopefully, in the last 2 hours, y'all have gotten something. That's what this platform is all about. And if I got paid $1 million, I hope that I did justice for the time invested. And I hope the things that I've repeated like a song have sunk in the best ways. And we'll get to the other topic later. And thank you guys so much for being part of this and bringing up all the other points and parts that make this what Triple T is all about. And now I get to do what I do. Thank you, thank you, thank you for giving up your precious commodity of time. I still haven't figured out how to reproduce it and give it back to you. You'll know as soon as I do. But until then, I appreciate you offering up your precious commodity here on this platform. For those of you that are watching the recording all the way to the end, yeah, you rock. Please do all those amazing YouTube things. Hit the subscribe, ring the bell, leave comments, share it with other people. If you haven't liked it yet, please do. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. For those of you on YouTube, love you, Mom. For the rest of you, love you all as well. See you back here, hopefully, in 7 beautiful days. Go out in the world, have an awesome life, live it to the fullest, and make it a better place. Bye.
Thank you, TJ. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Thanks, TJ.
Very well. Yep.
Okay, everyone.